It's a little woo woo. Welcome back to the Absolute Reason Mentorship Program with a focus on gender ideology. Today we're heading into part 9 with the age-old question of who am I? It was in the former parts where we discovered that the root cause of the chaos we experience within the environment of gender ideology is an identity crisis. I also pointed out that although you as the adult and the parent practice and you act as the general guide throughout this process with your child, you must also remember and keep it close to heart that there is a spiritual evolution underway. And it is this very spiritual evolution that triggers and tickles your child's soul to begin to question the deeper meaning of identity. And that is where we will be venturing in today with the help of my good friend Rudolf Steiner. Open quote. True errors are not as harmful as half and quarter truths. Things completely mistaken soon become apparent, while half and quarter truths seduce people. These partial truths worm their way into life and have the most devastating effects. Close quote. And this was a quote from Rudolf Steiner. I am Joan, your freaky philosopher, and you are my absolute reason. So let's get going with part 9. But before I start with part 9, and just so that you are sure that I am not quoting a bunch of numbnuts, let me just quickly give you an introduction to who Rudolf Steiner was. It was during the last 2 decades of the 19th century that the Austrian-born Rudolf Steiner became a respected and well-published scientific, literary and philosophical scholar, particularly known for his work in Goethe's scientific writings. It was after the turn of the century that he began to develop his earlier philosophical principles into an approach to methodical research of psychological and spiritual phenomena. His multifaceted genius has led to innovative and holistic approaches in medicine, science, education through the School of Waldorf, the special educations, philosophy, religion, economics, agriculture through the biodynamic method, architecture, drama, the new art of eurythmy, and other fields. This man was very busy. It was in 1925 that he founded the General Anthroposophical Society, which today has branches throughout the world. Now, I got this information from the little link I put there at the end, which is basically the Rudolf Steiner archive. The Anthroposophical Society should be researched by you, because basically what I have done is I've taken a lot of that knowledge within this Anthroposophical Society, but I've also combined it with the Vedic science from the Upanishads, and you will find these two streams permanently active in what I teach. But please, self-education is so critical that I encourage you to venture into the lectures of Rudolf Steiner. They are thick with information. So if you don't really feel like you're the type of person who either has the time to listen to his teachings or who finds it very thick and difficult to understand, well, just reach back to Absolute Reason, because I teach exactly what he was teaching. Now we can go on to part 9. Open quote. If you seek to understand the center, investigate the circumference, for only there will you find the answer. Close quote. Rudolf Steiner. Now, the center that we will be exploring today is the center of understanding. Who am I as an individual? It's the question of humanity, that science, the physical science that we are used to in the world of matter, that stupid Fauci effect, that will never be able to explain the true nature of the individual, and it will forever fall short in describing and teaching you who you are as an individual. So the only way we can truly understand who we are, who am I, is to go and research and investigate the supporting relativities that keep me stable within this world. Now, what are these supporting relativities that can either cripple or make an individual? And that is exactly what we will be exploring next. It is our supporting relativities that reveal who we are in truth. As we discovered in the former parts, we have 3 worlds above and 3 worlds below us as individuals. The 3 worlds above and below create a type of channel in which we can get our freak on. The frequency of you as an individual is defined by your threefold nature, which is will, knowledge, and action. But it is in this perpetual change that is life that we need at least one fixed aspect to keep us stable as we weave throughout the web of being. This fixed relativity is the free will of the individual. It is the only fixed aspect of who we are. The knowledge and even the action form and are born from the will of the individual, and they fluctuate with a push-pull effect, but the will remains stable and fixed. It is your relativities on both the world of energy and the world of matter that pushes and pulls us throughout the channel that is life. Now, in the scales of Thoth, this is that Egyptian god with the bird head and the big beak, he has a feather lying in one of the scales. This feather is not an indicator of how heavy or dark your heart is at the time of death. I don't know who came up with that nonsense. But in fact, what it is a focus to show you that although you have this duality of energy and matter pushing and pulling you throughout the channel that is life, it is the aspect of energy that must pull ever so slightly harder than the aspect of matter. And that is what the feather of Thoth indicates, because energy came before matter. They may be counterparts, but energy defines matter. So when it comes to your supporting relativities, it is critical that your highest and most influential relativities stream from the aspect of energy into the aspect of matter. This brings formless into form. Without the guiding principles of energy, of morality, and of ethics, the world of matter loses the cup of energy and just kind of plonks over, because there is no balance, there is no perspective on what drives the world of matter, and that is when chaos becomes your general state of being, because it's the world of matter that continuously divides itself, making itself more and more complicated. Whew, that was big. Let's have a break. It is an incredibly dangerous thing to think we know when we do not know. And this is where curiosity begins to play such a fundamental role in our pursuit of the true nature of reality. Because it is curiosity that leads the way to knowing our true potentials. Without this sense of inquiry, we can easily slip and slide into the pitfall of thinking we know when we do not know. Open quote. We live in a time of transitioning, moving toward one side or the other, as demanded by this phase of evolution. Close quote. Rudolf Steiner. Now, when Rudolf Steiner points to moving toward one side or the other, he is referring to the sides of energy and matter, the dual aspects of creation and the extremes thereof. Rudolf Steiner teaches that there is a time of transitioning in this phase of evolution, which basically then also points to that we're moving from the aspect of energy into the aspect of matter as we evolve as human beings. But he also goes on and he proceeds to actually give us a timeline of this spiritual evolution, which I found very, very helpful. So when you go look at the world of energy, the timeline for the world of energy evolution was pre-Christian as well as the Christian period. And I think we can all, and I can tell you for sure, as a homosexual or a lesbian, whatever you want to call me today, I have seen the extremes of morality and how it perverts virtues. My wife and I had to go to about 5 or 6 different places just to find somebody who would actually marry us. Not to mention my entire lifetime of having to bat off a preconceived idea that I somehow have devils and demons inside of me because I love a woman. I love my wife very well, and I love her with all my heart. There is absolutely nothing demonic about how I love my wife. What is demonic is when you have this morality pushing way too hard. And it is incredibly helpful for all of us to at least be able to identify the principal indicators of when our morality begins to push too hard. It's a little flag way of showing you, Joan, you're pushing that morality too hard. Get out of the books, get out of the scriptures for a while, and go into a social environment where I connect with people on a one-on-one basis. This helps to bring me back into a balanced state. So let's go look how Rudolf Steiner explains the principal indicator of morality pushing way too hard into the extreme, forming a type of a demonic state within the individual. As the principal indicator, Steiner teaches that it is too much morality that leads to disinterest in others, ignoring all lesser life below, with an arrogant focus on what I have created. But there are three contributing indicators that will help you establish the degree of morality pushing within the individual. The extreme degree of morality impulse expresses as the floodlight perspective. It elevates the individual arrogantly beyond our actual capacities, enforcing a false mysticism. And it creates and brings about a type of moral superstition. It is in the world of matter that Steiner presents us with a timeline, and he indicates that it was the phase of evolution, this process of transitioning from the world of energy into the world of matter, that started in the first part of the 20th century and is currently still underway. A principal indicator of a extreme degree of matter is that, as Steiner teaches, it's materialism that takes a certain sphere of human existence and aims to envelope and embrace the whole world in that sphere. It is everything that is to gain power over others and that goes against sound social gains. I think gender ideology is smack bang a perfect illustration and example of what Steiner is referring to. The secondary indicators of when the extreme degree of the passion impulse is active within an individual is as follows. It gives the individual a bit perspective. Bit for bit for bit, the individual tries to gather a perception of the world. It persuades us of the illusionary truth of materialism, and this ultimately brings about a scientific superstition. So when you hear the elites refer to humanity and individual people as animals that can be hacked by AI and some or other little wire thing that they may have put into your head today, that is a complete and proper example of how the extreme degree of the passion impulse creates an illusionary truth. Mr. Elite, I am not an animal. You cannot hack me because I am fully aware of my own state of being and I understand the power of my free will. Take your hands off of me as well as our children, you pervert. So what on earth are these supporting relativities that I continuously refer to, and how exactly will it help us to keep balance in the oneness of all? These supporting relativities, more simply put, are the influences, the sources of knowledge that ultimately shapes and forms the foundation from which you base your free will on. We have these supporting relativities that push hard into the world of energy and supporting relativities that push hard into the world of matter. To be a balanced individual is to find a nice, balanced, influential stream from both of these extreme aspects. Once that is achieved, the individual is aware that the world of energy is to push a little bit harder than the world of matter. In other words, the relativities that support your world of energy is ultimately what illuminates the world of matter, which means you have a far clearer understanding as to how the world of matter is shaped and formed, as well as how you, as an individual, relates to these aspects that push and pull around us within our environment. So after that bit, you have a better understanding as to how the supporting relativities stabilizes the individual within the perpetual change that is life. The question, however, may arise as to how exactly these supporting relativities reveal the true nature of reality. And as I've stated so many times before, it is never an exclusion of anything, which means you do not keep your eye only on the world of energy or only on the world of matter. But what you do is you place your eye on the intersecting points of the knowledge gained and the supporting relativities from the world of matter and the world of energy. If you begin to place your perspective on the intersections of energy and matter, that you begin to observe a network that is directed by the free will of the individual. In other words, the intention of the individual. Once you understand this technology, you can begin to reverse engineer a person's action by establishing their relativities that support their will, and then you can reverse engineer all the way through to a point where you can at least get a bit of an eye on what the intention of that individual is. It is ultimately intention that reveals the true nature of reality. And that brings us to the end of part 9 with the Absolute Reason Mentorship Program, with a focus on gender ideology, which is actually all about identity. So now we understand the supporting relativities and how that forms a network for the individual. In our next part, we are going to further explore Rudolf Steiner's point of how dangerous half and quarter truths are to the individual as well as our general society, and the devastating effects thereof. We will also have a look at how we can rectify this oversteer into the world of matter so that we can all further evolve spiritually with our children. I am Joan, your freaky philosopher, and you are my absolute reason. It's a little woo-woo.